Ketchup seems innocent, just tomatoes, vinegar, and spices on your fries or burger. But for seniors, some bottles hide dangers that can wreck blood pressure, spike blood sugar, and interact dangerously with heart medications. From brands loaded with secret sodium to contaminated batches slipping past inspectors, your condiment drawer might be putting your health at risk. Today, we're exposing 9 ketchup brands to avoid at all costs, and the 2 that are actually worth your trust. Coming in at number 9, we've got Del Monte Tomato Ketchup. Del Monte promises garden-fresh tomatoes and wholesome flavor, the kind of trust your grandmother would have placed in a brand like this. But inspection reports tell a completely different story, one that should make you think twice before squeezing that familiar bottle. Multiple Del Monte facilities were cited for unsanitary conditions, including visible mold growth creeping across equipment surfaces and improper cleaning protocols that left residue building up in processing lines. For seniors, this isn't just disgusting, it's dangerous. Consuming ketchup processed in these environments means potential exposure to bacterial contaminants that can trigger severe digestive distress, especially if your immune system isn't what it used to be. Picture opening a bottle and catching a faint musty smell, something off that you can't quite place. That's the reality inspectors found behind the scenes. Worse yet, Del Monte ketchup packs over 160 milligrams of sodium per tablespoon. That's nearly 7% of your daily limit in one squirt. If you're managing high blood pressure or taking diuretics to control fluid retention, this hidden sodium load can sabotage your medication and spike your numbers dangerously high within hours. The thick, glossy pour looks perfect as it coats your fries, but your body will pay the price later with swelling ankles, shortness of breath, and readings that alarm your doctor. Del Monte built its reputation on family values and fresh ingredients, but what inspectors actually found was a factory floor that couldn't meet basic sanitation standards. The betrayal is clear. They promise you garden quality, but deliver factory contamination and a sodium bomb that threatens your heart health with every meal. At number 8, store brand generic ketchup from Walmart. Great value. Walmart's Great Value Ketchup markets itself as affordable and family-friendly, a budget option that lets you save a few dollars without sacrificing taste. But lab tests reveal a troubling truth that should concern anyone watching their blood sugar. Independent analyses found inconsistent quality controls, with some batches containing significantly higher levels of high-fructose corn syrup than what's actually listed on the nutrition label. For seniors managing diabetes or prediabetes, these hidden sugars can cause blood glucose to surge unpredictably, leaving you confused about why your numbers jumped after what seemed like a normal meal. 1 tablespoon can contain up to 4 grams of sugar. Multiply that across a typical burger and fries meal where you might use 3 or 4 tablespoons, and you're looking at a glycemic spike that leaves you tired, shaky, and at risk for long-term vascular complications. The bargain price hides a cost your pancreas will pay in insulin resistance and damaged blood vessels. Beyond the sugar deception, multiple consumer complaints report disturbing off-tastes and watery consistency, the kind of thin, almost translucent red liquid that pools around your food instead of coating it. This suggests either dilution with cheaper ingredients or poor tomato sourcing, possibly using damaged or overripe fruit that wouldn't pass muster at premium brands. What looks like ketchup in the bottle may actually be a chemical cocktail designed to mimic the real thing at the lowest possible production cost. The cap sometimes arrives with dried, crusty residue around the threads, a sign the product has been sitting in warehouses far too long or wasn't sealed properly to begin with. When you're on a fixed income, saving money matters, but not when it means gambling with your blood sugar control and consuming a product made with the cheapest possible ingredients and the least oversight. Now at number 7, Hunt's Tomato Ketchup. Hunt's has been a household name for generations, the bottle your parents probably kept in the refrigerator door next to the mustard. But recent FDA findings should make you think twice before trusting this old familiar brand. Several Hunt's production facilities were flagged for failing to meet food safety standards, including inadequate temperature controls during critical processing stages. This creates an ideal breeding ground for bacteria like Clostridium botulinum, the microbe responsible for botulism, which thrives in low-acid environments when temperatures aren't properly maintained. For seniors with weakened immune systems or those taking immunosuppressant medications for conditions like rheumatoid arthritis or after an organ transplant, even trace amounts of this bacteria can lead to serious foodborne illness that requires hospitalization. Botulism symptoms include blurred vision, difficulty swallowing, and muscle weakness, all of which can be mistaken for other age-related conditions until it's too late. Hunt's also relies heavily on high fructose corn syrup as its second ingredient, listed right after tomato concentrate on the label. Multiple studies link high consumption of this industrial sweetener to increased risks of heart disease, fatty liver accumulation, and worsening insulin resistance, critical concerns for aging bodies already struggling with metabolic changes. The familiar red bottle with its simple label may feel nostalgic, comforting even, but what's inside is far from the simple tomato blend your grandparents actually consumed decades ago when food manufacturing standards were different. The company promises real tomato taste in its advertising, but inspectors found reality falling drastically short: watery texture that slides off food, inconsistent flavor profiles that vary wildly from batch to batch, and samples that barely met the minimum tomato content standards required by federal regulations. When you pour it, notice how thin it is, how it doesn't cling to your food the way quality ketchup should. That's not just a texture issue, it's a red flag about what's really in the bottle and how little real tomato you're actually getting. Isn't it strange how billion-dollar ketchup brands can fail inspections and still sit on every grocery shelf? Makes you wonder what else slips through. Want the real truth about what's hiding in your condiments? Subscribe now so you never get blindsided by hidden food dangers lurking in your fridge. Coming in at number 6, Heinz Simply Ketchup. Heinz Simply Ketchup was supposed to be the healthier choice, the option for people who actually read labels and care about what they eat. No high fructose corn syrup, cleaner ingredients, a green label that screams wholesome, marketed directly to health-conscious seniors who wanted to make better choices without giving up the ketchup they love. But here's the betrayal that makes this brand so insidious. While it ditches the corn syrup everyone fears, it simply replaces it with cane sugar, and the sodium content remains shockingly high at 190 milligrams per tablespoon. That's actually higher than the original Heinz formula. For seniors on blood pressure medication or managing congestive heart failure, this is a ticking time bomb hidden behind a label that promises transparency. Your doctor tells you to watch your sodium, you switch to the Simply version thinking you're making a smart choice, and you're actually consuming more of the very thing that's threatening your cardiovascular health. Several batches of Heinz Simply were recalled due to packaging defects that allowed air exposure during shipping and storage, leading to spoilage and potential mold contamination before the bottles even reached store shelves. Seniors who unknowingly used these compromised bottles reported stomach cramps that doubled them over, waves of nausea that lasted for hours, and diarrhea severe enough to cause dangerous dehydration in older adults whose bodies can't bounce back as quickly. The Simply label promises transparency and cleaner eating, but the reality is simply dangerous and simply deceptive. Even the texture feels wrong when you squeeze it onto your plate, thinner and almost slimy, like it's been cut with something to stretch the product further. This suggests lower actual tomato content and more fillers, starches, or thickeners to create the appearance of real ketchup. What you're paying a premium price for isn't actually superior ingredients or better safety. It's clever marketing that exploits your desire to eat healthier while delivering the same risks in a prettier package. The green label might as well be a warning sign, because Simply doesn't mean safer when it comes to your blood pressure and heart health. Coming in at number 5, French's Tomato Ketchup. French has jumped into the ketchup game with bold claims about patriotic American tomatoes and superior taste that would revolutionize your burger experience. They position themselves as the underdog alternative, the choice for people who wanted to support domestic agriculture. But customer complaints and inspection records paint a much darker picture that reveals serious quality control failures. Multiple reports describe bottles arriving with the contents separated, a watery red liquid pooling at the top while a thick paste settles at the bottom, requiring vigorous shaking just to mix it back into something resembling ketchup. Separation is a major red flag, indicating either poor emulsification during manufacturing or preservative failure that allows the ingredients to break down prematurely. When ketchup separates, it means the protective acids that prevent bacterial growth are no longer evenly distributed throughout the product. Seniors consuming this degraded ketchup are at serious risk for gastrointestinal infections from bacteria like E. coli or Salmonella that can multiply in the compromised portions of the bottle. These infections can lead to severe dehydration requiring intravenous fluids and hospitalization, especially dangerous for older adults whose kidneys are already under stress. French's also contains 160 milligrams of sodium per tablespoon and relies on distilled vinegar as its primary preservative, which sounds natural until you experience the consequences. That high acidity can irritate sensitive stomachs and dramatically exacerbate acid reflux, a condition that already affects millions of seniors and makes eating uncomfortable. Imagine finishing a meal and feeling that burning rise up your esophagus, the sour taste in the back of your throat, the discomfort that ruins the rest of your evening. The brand promises bold, tangy flavor, but what you're really getting is a recipe for digestive disaster that can trigger symptoms lasting hours or even days. Inspection records uncovered at various French's facilities show inconsistent quality checks and lapses in maintaining proper sanitation during the bottling process, with some locations failing to adequately clean equipment between production runs. The result is ketchup that looks acceptable on the outside of the bottle, but harbors invisible risks on the inside, risks that can make you seriously ill without warning. Coming in at number 4, Trader Joe's Organic Ketchup. Trader Joe's markets this product as organic, wholesome, and made with sun-ripened tomatoes grown without pesticides. The label has that signature Trader Joe's charm with hand-drawn illustrations that make it feel artisanal and trustworthy. Sounds perfect for health-conscious seniors who shop carefully and read every ingredient list, right? Wrong. Despite the prominent organic certification and the premium price that comes with it, this ketchup contains a staggering 190 milligrams of sodium per tablespoon, higher than many conventional brands that make no health claims whatsoever. For seniors managing chronic kidney disease or congestive heart failure, this sodium overload can cause dangerous fluid retention that makes your legs swell, your lungs fill with fluid, and your heart work overtime just to keep up. Your body can't process and eliminate that much sodium efficiently anymore, so it accumulates in your tissues and bloodstream, worsening the very conditions you're trying to manage. The organic label doesn't protect you from poor processing standards either. It only guarantees the farming methods, not the factory conditions. Consumer reports describe troubling inconsistencies, batches that taste completely different from each other, watery texture that makes the ketchup slide off food instead of coating it properly, and even visible separation in some bottles that sat on shelves for months. Lab tests commissioned by consumer advocacy groups revealed lower acidity levels than standard ketchup formulations, measuring closer to neutral pH in some samples. This is a critical safety issue because acidity is ketchup's primary defense against bacterial growth. When pH levels drift upward toward neutral, bacteria can multiply more easily, creating contamination risks that are especially dangerous for seniors with compromised immune systems from age, medication, or chronic illness. The earthy brown packaging with its natural aesthetic hides a product that's neither safer nor healthier than mainstream alternatives you could buy for half the price. You're paying a premium for organic labels and Trader Joe's branding while still loading up on dangerous levels of sodium, questionable preservation methods that may not adequately protect against spoilage, and inconsistent quality that varies wildly from bottle to bottle. The betrayal cuts deep because this is a brand people trust implicitly, assuming Trader Joe's would never sell them something that could harm their health. But trust and marketing don't equal safety when the sodium content alone can trigger a health crisis. Coming in at number 3, Red Gold Tomato Ketchup. Red Gold touts itself as family-owned and made with honest Midwestern tomatoes, evoking images of small-town values, generational recipes, and wholesomeness you can depend on. The label features simple red and white design that looks like it came straight from a 1950s diner, and that nostalgic appeal is exactly what draws people in. But inspection reports compiled by federal food safety regulators reveal a deeply troubling pattern of safety lapses that completely contradict the wholesome image. Multiple Red Gold facilities received serious violations for inadequate pest control measures, with documented evidence of rodent activity near active production lines where your ketchup is being processed and bottled. Inspectors found droppings, gnaw marks on packaging materials, and signs of nesting in areas that should have been completely sealed off from any animal access. For seniors, the thought of consuming ketchup contaminated with rodent waste isn't just disgusting on a visceral level. It's medically dangerous in ways most people don't fully understand. Rodent droppings carry pathogens including Salmonella, E. coli, and even hantavirus, all of which pose potentially life-threatening risks to older adults whose immune systems can't mount the same defensive response they once could. An infection that might give a younger person a few miserable days can put a senior in the hospital for weeks with complications including sepsis, kidney failure, and cardiac stress. Red Gold also delivers a hefty sugar punch at 4 grams per tablespoon, with much of that sweetness coming from high-fructose corn syrup listed prominently in the ingredients. Seniors managing diabetes, prediabetes, or metabolic syndrome should avoid this product entirely because your blood sugar will spike fast after consumption, leaving you vulnerable to energy crashes, dizziness, brain fog, and the kind of long-term vascular damage that leads to neuropathy and vision problems. The brand promises heartland quality and family values in every bottle, but federal inspectors found the reality falling drastically short of those claims. Equipment showing visible rust that could flake into your food, inadequate cleaning schedules that allowed residue buildup between production runs, and repeated failures to meet FDA temperature requirements during processing stages where bacterial control is absolutely critical. What ends up sealed in that bottle and sitting in your refrigerator may be far from safe, carrying contamination risks and health hazards that the folksy branding completely obscures. Why do you think ketchup brands loaded with sodium and sugar are still marketed as family-friendly and wholesome? Who's really being protected here? Coming in at number 2, Sir Kensington's ketchup. Sir Kensington's positions itself as the gourmet, artisanal choice for people with refined taste and higher standards. No high-fructose corn syrup, non-GMO verified ingredients, a premium price tag that can run double or triple what you'd pay for mainstream brands. Sleek packaging that looks like it belongs in a specialty food shop rather than a regular grocery store. It's the ketchup for people who care deeply about what they eat, who read ingredient labels and make conscious choices. But here's where the betrayal becomes almost insulting. Despite all the fancy branding and premium positioning, this ketchup still contains 3 grams of sugar per tablespoon and uses concentrated tomato paste rather than whole tomatoes in its formulation, which significantly reduces the nutritional value and means you're getting less of the beneficial compounds like lycopene that make tomatoes healthy in the first place. For seniors living on fixed incomes, often choosing between medication, food, and other necessities, you're paying double or triple the price for improvements that are marginal at best and sometimes non-existent. The company wants you to believe you're getting something fundamentally different and safer, but the core risk factors remain largely unchanged. Even more alarming, several Sir Kensington's batches were subject to voluntary recalls due to undeclared allergens, specifically traces of soy protein that weren't properly listed on the product label, despite federal requirements. Seniors with soy allergies or sensitivities who trusted this premium brand and assumed its quality control would be flawless faced severe allergic reactions, including hives that covered their skin, facial swelling that made breathing difficult, and in some cases full anaphylaxis requiring emergency epinephrine and hospitalization. The company's catastrophic failure to properly test and label ingredients represents a complete breach of the trust you place in a brand charging premium prices. When you pay more, you expect more, not life-threatening oversights that could have been prevented with basic quality control procedures. Even the taste profile is polarizing among consumers, with many describing it as excessively sweet, almost syrupy in consistency, indicating sugar content that may actually exceed what's declared on the label once you account for the concentrated tomato paste and other sweetening agents. The sleek glass bottle and upscale marketing materials, the clever British-themed branding with the top hat logo, all of it hides sloppy quality control, dangerous labeling failures, and a product that delivers essentially the same health risks as conventional ketchup while charging you substantially more money. You're not buying safer ketchup or better ingredients in any meaningful sense. You're buying expensive marketing wrapped around a product with serious quality control problems that put allergic consumers in genuine danger. The betrayal stings worse because this brand specifically targets health-conscious consumers who are trying their hardest to make better choices and protect themselves. Most people never learn what actually makes ketchup safe, but we'll break down everything you need to know at the end of this video. Don't go anywhere yet. Coming in at number 1, Heinz Tomato Ketchup Original, the most iconic ketchup brand in America. The bottle that's been on every diner table, in every refrigerator, trusted by multiple generations of families who never questioned whether it was safe. Heinz built a commercial empire on the promise of consistent quality and that familiar taste you grew up with. And yet, Heinz Original Ketchup represents the single most dangerous choice for seniors, and the reasons go far deeper than you might imagine. Let's start with the sodium content. 160 milligrams per tablespoon. Now that might not sound extreme compared to some brands, but here's where the real danger hides. Nobody uses just 1 tablespoon of ketchup. A typical burger meal where you're dipping fries, spreading it on your bun, maybe adding a little more on the side, you're easily squirting 3 or 4 tablespoons without even thinking about it. That's over 600 milligrams of sodium from ketchup alone, representing nearly a third of your entire daily recommended limit from a single condiment. For seniors taking blood pressure medication, diuretics to control fluid retention, or managing any form of cardiovascular disease, this sodium bomb triggers a cascade of dangerous effects. Your body retains water trying to dilute that sodium concentration, which causes swelling in your legs and ankles, puts extra strain on your heart as it pumps harder to move increased blood volume, and can spike your blood pressure high enough to risk stroke or heart attack within hours of eating. Your kidneys, already declining in function with age, struggle to filter and eliminate that sodium load, leading to dangerous buildup that worsens kidney disease and can push you toward dialysis dependency. Next comes the sugar problem. 4 grams per tablespoon, and nearly every bit of that sweetness comes from high fructose corn syrup, one of the most problematic ingredients in the modern American diet. Extensive research links regular high fructose corn syrup consumption to elevated triglycerides that clog your arteries, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease that impairs your body's ability to process toxins and medications, and progressive insulin resistance that pushes prediabetes into full type 2 diabetes. For aging bodies already dealing with slowed metabolism and increased inflammation, adding this industrial sweetener regularly amplifies every metabolic problem you face. Heinz markets itself as timeless, reliable, the ketchup your grandmother used. But recent FDA inspection reports reveal troubling lapses in quality control that shatter that carefully crafted image. Multiple Heinz production facilities were cited for improper sanitation practices, failure to adequately maintain equipment, cleanliness with visible grime building up in hard-to-clean areas, and inadequate pest control measures that allowed insects and rodents potential access to production zones. These aren't minor paperwork violations. These are fundamental failures in food safety that can directly contaminate your product. Consumer complaints filed with the FDA describe bottles with distinctly strange odors, a sour or fermented smell that indicates spoilage or bacterial growth, visible discoloration where the ketchup appears darker or has separated into layers, and even visible mold growing near the cap or around the bottle threads where product residue collected. These reports aren't isolated incidents that can be dismissed as flukes. They represent a pattern indicating systemic quality control failures across Heinz's manufacturing network. For seniors whose immune systems are compromised by age, chronic conditions, or medications, consuming contaminated ketchup can trigger severe gastrointestinal illness that starts with violent cramping and diarrhea, but can rapidly progress to dangerous dehydration, electrolyte imbalances that affect heart rhythm, and infections that require hospitalization and IV antibiotics. Older bodies can't bounce back from foodborne illness the way younger systems can. The glossy, thick red pour that Heinz is famous for, that familiar taste that triggers childhood memories, it all masks what your body will suffer later. Every squeeze adds sodium your cardiovascular system can't handle, sugar that destabilizes your metabolism, and potential contamination that could make you desperately ill. Heinz built a multi-generational empire on consumer trust, on the assumption that this brand would never let you down. But today, that trust is actively betrayed with every bottle, as quality control failures and dangerous ingredient levels combine to create a product that poses serious health risks, especially to the aging population that grew up trusting this brand implicitly. The betrayal cuts deepest because this isn't some fly-by-night generic brand, it's Heinz, and they're still failing the very consumers who made them a household name. Now, after exposing all these dangerous brands, you deserve to know what's actually safe. Here are the 2 ketchup options you can trust. The first genuinely safe option is Primal Kitchen Organic Unsweetened Ketchup. This ketchup represents what the category should have been all along, made without added sugar, completely free of high fructose corn syrup, and containing only 115 milligrams of sodium per tablespoon, significantly lower than every mainstream brand we've discussed. Primal Kitchen uses organic tomato concentrate as its base and relies on dates for natural sweetness, providing gentle flavor without spiking blood sugar the way refined sugars and corn syrup do. For diabetics, this is a game changer. You can finally enjoy ketchup without watching your glucose numbers climb dangerously. For heart patients and seniors managing blood pressure, that reduced sodium content means you can use this product without sabotaging your medication or triggering dangerous fluid retention. The company subjects every batch to rigorous third-party testing for contaminants, pesticides, and bacterial safety, going beyond minimum FDA requirements to ensure what reaches your table is genuinely clean. Their facilities maintain spotless inspection records with 0 violations for sanitation, temperature control, or pest management. When you pour this ketchup, you'll notice it's slightly thinner than conventional brands because it lacks the high fructose corn syrup that creates that thick, sticky texture. But the flavor is remarkably close to what you remember. Tangy, slightly sweet, with real tomato taste coming through. You're getting authentic ingredients and real safety, not marketing tricks. The second recommendation is True Made Foods Veggie Ketchup. This innovative product takes a completely different approach by blending tomatoes with carrots, butternut squash, and spinach to naturally reduce sugar content while simultaneously boosting overall nutrition. The result is ketchup containing only 1 gram of sugar per tablespoon and just 95 milligrams of sodium, the lowest levels you'll find in any ketchup that still tastes like the real thing. There are no artificial preservatives, no high fructose corn syrup, and every ingredient is clearly labeled and sourced from verified suppliers. True Made Foods consistently earns high marks on food safety inspections, with auditors praising their attention to sanitation, proper temperature maintenance, and transparent quality control processes. The added vegetables provide fiber, vitamins, and antioxidants you won't get from conventional ketchup, making this a genuinely healthier choice rather than just a less dangerous one. The flavor profile is slightly earthier than standard ketchup due to the vegetable blend, but most people adapt quickly and come to prefer the more complex taste. For seniors who want to enjoy their meals without constantly worrying about sodium, sugar, and contamination risks, this is the peace of mind option that actually delivers on its promises. Don't risk your health on ketchup that hides sodium, sugar, and contamination behind familiar branding and childhood memories. The brands you grew up trusting have changed, and not for the better. Subscribe now, and I'll show you what to avoid and what's actually safe every single week. Your heart, kidneys, and blood pressure will thank you. And if you're watching on TV, just tap your remote to subscribe so you never get blindsided again.